Try and squeeze as many people in there as we possibly can. So, do you want to move that seat to the back and then we can get people to the front if you don't mind?
Sorry to bother. It's a bit of a pain, I can't
That's
help
all right,
it.
can't be helped.
No, it can't be, no.
Probably get
I can't
just a few
stand
more
very
people
long.
inside.
We're standing there, Ryan.
Just a little bit of space in here still.
Stand there.
I think we're at full capacity. I do apologise, but the doors will stay open.
No, don't do that. I can't deal with it anyway. Couldn't do it. Mama gave me some. It's coming to eat after me.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I'd like to welcome you all here today. My name is James Greeley, and I'm a civil celebrant, and today I have the honour of guiding you through the celebration of the life of Deborah Marie Johnson, or better known to you all as Debs. Now, on behalf of myself and the staff from Trust Funeral Services, I'd like to offer our sincere condolences for your loss, and I hope that you find today's service to be a fitting tribute to such a kind-hearted, fun-loving and, of course, much-loved woman. And I'd like to thank you all for being here today to pay your final respects to Debs. Now, unfortunately, Debs' mum, Denise, is too ill to attend today. However, I'm sure that her thoughts will be with Debs at this time. Now, Simon has asked me to extend the invitation to everyone present to join Deb's family for refreshments at the Clifton Community Centre, known locally as The Shed, to raise a glass or two in Deb's memory immediately following this service. And I've also been asked to say a couple of special thank yous. The first is to, well, all of you, and that's for all of your kind words and messages of condolence, and all of which I know have come as a great comfort to Simon and Deb's family at this sad and difficult time. So thank you, everybody. Also, a special thank you to the staff at Maggie's Day Centre for the friendship and the support that they provided to Deb over the last 3.5 years. Deb's regularly attended the centre since her first diagnosis, and where she enjoyed meeting other people and took the opportunity to learn creative writing. And also a special thank you to the staff and the nurses at Haywood House for the excellent care that they too provided to Debs. And in recognition of the high standard of care that Deb's received at Haywood House, there will be the opportunity to provide donations as you leave the chapel, with all proceeds going to Haywood House. Now, ladies and gentlemen, today's service is a rather unique one for me, in that I had the pleasure of meeting Debs, Simon and their family following the sad passing of Simon's dad, Ray, last year. His service being held here at this exact same time. And so it is both an honour and a privilege for me to be invited back to guide you through the celebration of Deb's life. Now, of course, being the bubbly and fun-loving woman that she was, Debs did not want today to be a day of sadness and mourning, but instead a day to come together to remember all the good and the happy times that you have all spent with her. And although she will be sadly missed, it is the story of her life told today, and of course your treasured memories of her, which you will carry forwards in your own lives. Debs passed peacefully on the 19th of July at Haywood House with her loving husband Simon by her side in her final days, determined that they would celebrate their 25th wedding anniversary just earlier that month. She was 58 years of age. Born on the 1st of April 1966 in Nottingham to parents Denise and Sam Baker, Debs remained their only child. Now, she would always joke that she was born before midday, so she was indeed an April Fool. However, she would later say that she was an even bigger fool marrying Simon. Now, when her parents' relationship came to an end, Sam went on to remarry, and Debs gained 5 sisters: Teresa, Sam, Kelly, Paula and Martine. And Teresa went on to become her close sister and friend in later years, and Debs loved her to bits, as I know Simon still does to this day. She was initially raised in the Radford area of Nottingham until her mum met and married Tony, and they emigrated to the other side of the world and settled in Australia. Here she attended the local school. However, their dream of starting a new life in the sun was tragically cut short when Tony sadly passed. Denise returned with Debs to the UK and settled in Mablethorpe, and where Debs was able to continue her education. And although she was a bright girl, the constant moving around meant that Debs was initially a quiet and a shy girl. However, her friendly and sociable nature would soon shine through, and she became a fun-loving, selfless girl and something of a chatterbox, qualities that I know remained with her throughout her life. She enjoyed a happy childhood, growing up in Mablethorpe, the local seafront becoming a playground for her and where she loved to spend her time on the beach. Meanwhile, Denise went on to marry for a 3rd time when she met Michael, and together they blessed Debs with a baby sister, Helen, whom Debs doted on and forever fondly referred to as Bops. Michael was always her daddy, as he was always there for Debs throughout her formative years, and she loved him so much, as she did her mum. To say that Debs loved them to the moon and stars and back again would be an underestimation. The 2 sisters remain close, with Debs helping to look after Helen, and who Helen remembers as being a great older sister to her. She has many fond memories of them growing up together, including their first holiday abroad to Cyprus. On the flight over, Debs told Helen that the seat recliner button was never to be pressed, because if it did, the roof on the plane would open up and she would be ejected out of the plane. On another holiday abroad, Debs encouraged Helen to put on her snorkelling mask and to look into the sea where she was standing, and she immediately saw lots of fish swimming around her ankles, and Debs told her that they would start biting her, causing poor Helen to run screaming out of the sea to her mum and dad, and much to Debs' amusement. Now, I know that Helen has many more fond memories of their time spent together, and so I'd now like to invite her to come and join me and to share with you her own personal tribute to Debs.
Got glasses these days and I'll try to see. To my wonderful big sister. Thank you for guiding me to be the person I am today. Thank you for looking after me, for making Christmases special, for letting me watch you get ready with your best friend Gail. I used to watch on in envy to just be like you. Thank you for letting me creep into bed with you at night when I couldn't sleep. Thank you for giving in and letting me have more sauce on my already full bowl of ice cream, which then meant I was sick in your bed. Which Mum and Dad came home and wondered what had gone on. Thank you for always being there for advice, breakups, house moves, anything else I needed support with. You always stood out from the crowd, yes, with your endless changes in hair colour, but mainly for your kindness, love, support, laughter and the most beautiful endearing smile. That smile continued all the way to the end, along with your courage and braveness that to this day astounds me. You said you were worried that you weren't leaving behind some kind of legacy. But Deb, that legacy is you. To my big sister, here is the deepest secret nobody knows. Here is the root of the root and the bud of a tree called life, which grows higher than any soul could hope or mind can hide. And this is the wonder that keeps the stars apart. I carry your heart, I carry it in mine.
Thank you very much, Helen. Thank you. Helen, thank you for sharing that lovely tribute. Now, on leaving school, Debs was able to find seasonal work, including a short spell working as a waitress at the Golden Sands Holiday Park. When I say a short spell, I mean she lasted 3 hours. She was so nervous that she managed to spill a whole tray of drinks over a customer. Then, after a time spent working in a local newsagent, she decided to return to her roots in Nottingham and found work at the Rank Hovis bread factory. Debs made a new circle of friends, including her good friend Carol, who later found Debs a job working alongside her at Imperial Tobacco. She worked hard to make a good life for herself, eventually buying her own home and her little Vauxhall Nova car, whilst also enjoying a very active social life. Together with her friends, they would regularly drink and socialise in the pubs and bars around Nottingham. And it was during a night out with another good friend, Sally, in July of 1996 in Yates's Bar that Debs would first meet Simon Johnson. Now, Simon was out with his good friend, Johnny Dawes, and he tells me that he had a vague recollection of bumping into Debs and saying something cheeky, which instantly sparked a connection. No doubt Debs replying with something equally as cheeky in return. But Simon couldn't help but be struck by Debs' two outstanding attributes. I'm talking about her smile and her personality. Get your minds out the sewers. Now, they got talking, and it was immediately clear to them both that they were quite taken by each other. And so, at the end of the night, Debs invited Simon back to her house. Alone, together, well, of course, the inevitable happened. Yes, that's right. Chatted all night about 2000 AD comics into the early hours. Now, Debs finally gave Simon a lift back home to his mum's house, not only to discreetly find out where he lived, but also so she could stalk him if necessary. So they arranged to meet again and took every opportunity to spend time together. And like Simon, Debbie was quite a nervous person at that time, and she was not overly confident, contrary to popular belief, and another one of the reasons that they were so drawn together. During one of their first dates at the Red Lion in Basford, they were both so nervous that Debs dropped her sandwich on the floor, and Simon spilled his drink all over the table, but it did serve to break the ice between them. They quickly learned that they had a lot in common, including their shared love of music from the 1980s, especially the band Ultravox, and whose music forever continued to take them both back to their early years of courting, including this next song titled The Hymn. So the happy couple finally married on the 10th of July 1999, and a day that Simon describes as being the best day of his life, and exactly 3 years after they first met. Coincidentally, it was also the same year as their mutual friends Johnny Dawes and Sally also married. They remained in Basford for a number of years until, with its rising crime rate on the streets, it began looking like a scene out of Hill Street Blues. So they moved to their current home on Maplestead Avenue in Wilford, and where their home became a popular hotspot for some very memorable parties with their many friends. They also made new friends from the village, albeit in the early years there it did feel like they were very much outsiders and would be driven out at any moment by angry villagers wielding pitchforks. However, it was soon clear to everyone that Debs was one of the nicest people you could know, and no one ever had a bad word to say about her. She was utterly selfless, putting everyone else's needs before her own, and anyone who ever met Debs became a friend for life. She was renowned for talking a bit. Well, when I say a bit, I mean a lot. Her closest friend described her as a machine gun lips, and even Simon nicknamed her Gabby, as she gabbed a lot. But they complemented each other perfectly, Debs often describing them both as being soulmates, like a double act with their constant banter, and even their friends Mark and Joe fondly referred to them as being like George and Mildred from the 1970s sitcom. The label stuck, however the jury is still out as to who was George and who was Mildred. They also gave each other their own pet names, Simon referring to Debs as Wifling, Bun Bun, Bunnel, Bundit, or Piece of Bunnel, taken from Harry Enfield's sketch Daddy Bunny Loves Mummy Bunny, and a sense of humour that Simon had no doubt inherited from his dad Ray, who, as many of you may remember, wanted to call Simon Vercingetorix, after a Gaelic chieftain from the Roman times. Debbie's nickname for Simon was Dad Bun, or My Little Dumpling, when he put on a little bit of weight, and also Taterhead. As she always said, he had a head shaped like a potato. And these names for Simon became increasingly less complimentary the more he pissed her off. Now, Simon also used to sing daft songs to her, another habit he had inherited from his dad, and the 1, 2, 3 Bingle Bongle song was one of Deb's favourites. Perhaps when you all later gather at the community centre, I'm sure Simon will sing it for you if you buy him a brandy or two. But this was a reflection of the love that Debs and Simon had for each other and the humour that they both shared. They were never happier than when they were in each other's company, even when simply relaxing on the sofa together. Debs would suddenly, and without warning, begin blowing kisses into the air. Simon would then allow a pregnant pause before raising his hand and catching them. And it was just a simple thing that they did, and it never got too old for them. Debs often saying that it gave her butterflies in her stomach. And obviously Simon, being the clown and the joker, he always said, "Well, I told you not to eat caterpillars." They also shared a love of all things science fiction and fantasy, and when they weren't talking about it, they would be watching a lot of it on the TV or at the cinema. One of the first ever dates they had together was a night at the cinema to see the film From Dusk Until Dawn. And then there was their shared love of music, and as well as the 80s bands, they also loved rock music. And Debs would often describe herself as being a bit of a rock chick. The band Linkin Park was amongst her favourites, and they did get the chance to see them perform live. Debs particularly liked the song Lies, Greed and Misery, which for some reason she attributed to Simon. However, he then attributed the song called The Bitch Song by the American rock band Bowling for Soup, and so typical of their constant banter. Debs loved a good party or any excuse to have her friends and family round and for everyone to have a good time. She loved Halloween, and each year for the last 9 or 10 years she would do fancy dress makeup for both herself and Simon, and she was very good at it. There are a few pictures of these Halloween parties on the picture boards, which will be displayed later at the community centre. Christmas was also a special time for Debs, sharing some memorable times with Michael and Denise and Helen and Joe at each other's houses. Debs loved Christmas, and so much so that it would often start at the end of October, and when the house would be decorated like Santa's grotto on acid. She was like a big kid whenever she was opening her presents on Christmas morning, and she loved receiving gifts, especially her favourite household gadgets. She had loads of them, and I know Simon has often scratched his head trying to work out what many of them were for. So if anybody does need a boiled egg combobulator, just have a word with Simon later. Now, being born in April, you might say that Debs became a typical Aries: impulsive, fun, competitive, she hated losing to Simon, lively and attention-seeking. She liked to dye her hair a lot. Her hair colour changed so frequently, Simon nicknamed her Traffic Light Head, or Smurfit if it was blue, or Beaker from the Muppets if it was orange. You get the gist. And then there were her outrageous hairstyles, a Mohican one day, a shaved head the next, just to shock those people nearest and dearest to her. After a while, it's what everyone came to expect of Debs, and instead of shock, everyone just simply smiled and rolled their eyes. And as well as her outrageous hairstyles, there were also Deb's shoe fetish. She loved shoes, shoe shopping, and Simon tells me that the wardrobes are bursting at the seams with shoe boxes, and he's convinced that Debs could have given Imelda Marcos a good run for her money. She also loved Sunday afternoons with the Johnsons and the Makings at Simon's sister's house, and where they would all gather to have Sunday dinner, play board games and exchange banter with Simon's family. And I know Debs really did cherish those times. There are so many adjectives to describe Debs: amazing, unique, special, wonderful, lovely, and in fact, I doubt there are enough words in the English dictionary to really pay her justice. She really was that person who smiled a lot, talked a lot, loved a lot, and gave a lot. It's a bit like the old joke: if she was to stand at the side of the Pope, people would be asking, who's that old geezer stood next to Debs? But such qualities meant that Debs made friends with everyone that she met, and wherever she went, even on holiday abroad. Throughout their years together, Debs and Simon enjoyed some very special holidays together, visiting destinations including Cyprus, Portugal and Mexico, and many of the friends that they met remained in regular contact through social media. They particularly enjoyed their last two holidays to Cyprus, especially watching the Queen Tribute Act, who Deb really enjoyed. However, by this time, her failing health was beginning to take its toll on her. Since her diagnosis and throughout the period of Deb's illness, Simon was there to care for her 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and even giving up his career to be by her side to make sure that her final years remained as happy and as comfortable as possible. She continued to enjoy visits from her family and loved getting voice messages from her friend Stu, or Stewie as she called him, and who Simon tells me sounded like a Cockney gangster on his messages. He often started his messages with, "All right, you slag." And while Debs would always reply by calling him lard arse or some other insult. But she always found these messages incredibly funny and loved them all, and all of which got her through some very difficult times. Now, just last month, Deb's strong will and determination meant that she and Simon were able to celebrate their 25th wedding anniversary. And such determination, well, that was Deb's all over. And despite the celebrations being held at Harewood House, the day went incredibly well, with lots of family and friends coming to visit, making the day even more special for her. Throughout their 25 years together, Debs and Simon have remained inseparable, and the longest that they had ever been apart was just 2 weeks. I know that Deb's passing has left a huge hole in Simon's heart, and his sense of loss is reflected in a poem that he has written, and which I would now like to share with you all. And the poem is titled "The Girl with the Forever Smile." For you, I would have walked 100 or even 1 million miles just to see one of your dazzling smiles. Hey girl with the forever smile, Why did you have to go? Could you not have stayed even just for a mow? Now that you are gone from my life, I just feel so lucky that you were my wife. We made 25 years, and without you all is pain. But I would go from the start and do it all over again. Every day I cannot believe that you are not here. Just one more time, I long for your voice to hear. The last time I saw you, I wanted you to fight, but I knew in my heart it was time for you to step into the light. I wanted one last hug, one last goodbye, before you had to leave us to ascend to the sky. Every day I ask myself why, but I take solace in knowing I was the apple of your eye. Everywhere I go, I see your face, and I know in my heart you will be impossible to replace. Life is so cruel, and sometimes downright vile, but to me, you will always be the girl with the forever smile. Thank you for that, Simon. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there can be no doubt that the sad loss of Debs will have been felt by you all, and so her legacy will not be how she died, but rather how she lived. A life that she filled with so much love, laughter and kindness, and shared so generously with everyone around her. And of course, you will all have your own fond memories of time spent with her, so let's take a moment while you all have those thoughts, and during which I'm going to lay a single rose on behalf of Simon and Deb's family in Deb's memory. Now, I spoke earlier of how Debs and Simon shared a love of music, and this next song was her favourite and performed by one of Deb's favourite bands. And that song is Leave Out All the Rest by Linkin Park.
I dreamed I was missing you, so scared.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite those of you who are able to please stand and join with me as we say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Please be seated. And so we have now reached the part of this service where we must now commit Debs to her final resting place. And this does not mean that she will be forgotten. We've learnt and understand why she will be very sadly missed by everyone who knew her. But more importantly, we know that she'll be remembered with a great deal of fondness and love and respect, and your lives will be richer for having known her. Her memory will live on in your hearts, I'm sure, for a long time to come. I will now say the words of the committal. Into the freedom of the wind and sunshine, we let you go. Into the sadness and the smiles of our memories, we let you go. Into the cycle of living and dying and long-lived admiration, we let you go. And may you rest in peace forever and always. The service is now complete. I would once again like to thank you all for being here today to pay your final respects to this very special lady. Now, in a moment, we will conclude today's service with a final song, and during which I invite you all to remain seated until my colleague comes to guide you from the chapel. Now, in recent years, Simon tells me that Debs became obsessed with K-pop and began watching Korean dramas on the TV for hours on end, so much so that their house often used to sound like a Chinese takeaway at times. So this final song is performed by one of Deb's favourite K-pop bands, Stray Kids, which Simon describes as being a fusion of Korean, English, and utter crap. Now, this song is titled Back Door, or as Simon renamed it, Up Your Back Doors. But I'll let him explain the meaning of that to you. So here we have it now, Back Door by the Stray Kids. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
You want to come in? Here we go.